That's what you live for, isn't it? You'd do anything for money, wouldn't you? Even blackmail.
Oh, grow up.
I've never denied you anything. Anything money could buy, I've given you. But that wasn't enough, was it? All right, Vita, from now on, things are going to be different.
I'll say they're going to be different. Why do you think I went to all this trouble? Why do you think I want money so badly?
All right, why?
Are you sure you want to know?
Yes.
Then I'll tell you. With this money, I can get away from you.
Vita.
From you and your chickens and your pies and your kitchens and everything that smells of grease. I can get away from this shack with its cheap furniture and this town and its dollar days and its women that wear uniforms and its men that wear overalls.
Vita, I think I'm really seeing you for the first time in my life, and you're cheap and horrible.
You think just because you made a little money you can get a new hairdo and some expensive clothes and turn yourself into a lady. But you can't. Because you'll never be anything but a common frump whose father lived over a grocery store and whose mother took in washing. With this money, I can get away from every rotten, stinking thing that makes me think of this place or you.
Vita!
Not on your life!
I said give it to me! Get out, Vita. Get your things out of this house right now before I throw them into the street and you with them. Get out before I kill you.
Hello, I'm film historian Tony Maeda.
And I'm Brad Shreve, who's just a guy who likes movies.
We discuss movies and television from Hollywood's golden age. We go behind the scenes and share our opinions, too.
And of course, being the average guy, my opinions are the ones that matter.
As does your self-delusion. Welcome to Going Hollywood.
Personally, Vita's convinced me that alligators have the right idea. They eat their young.
Tony, you know I love Spain.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I've really given you details of why I love Spain.
You haven't. Tell me.
No, it's the people and it's the environment. People here, when they move with purpose, even when they're falling apart. Mm. And they're very dramatic. They speak with crisp, clipped sentences. There's no rambling, no filler.
Yeah.
Their arguments are sharp and fast, and they're whispered like secrets. Even kindness has an edge, and cruelty is beautifully phrased. And what's really amazing, there are shadows everywhere, even in the kitchens, even in the living rooms, the restaurants.
Even when you're baking cakes and pies?
Yes. And everything looks slightly too beautiful and slightly too dangerous.
Oh, God. Sounds like a 1945 movie from Warner Brothers, Brad.
You don't know how long I worked on that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Like, what would my world be like if I lived there?
But it's not all black and white. It's not all crisp, earnest. It's not all gorgeous, Ernest Haller cinematography, black and white. Though that's the thing. And
now we can only get so far here.
Well, that was cute. That was a cute opening. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are. If you didn't catch it, we're talking about from Warner Brothers in 1945. None other than Miss Mildred Pierce herself. Mildred Pierce. This is another one of our Best Actress series. That's what we're going to call it.
And I'm not going to leave you in suspense because I already let the cat out of the bag when we had the discussion of whether this movie's going to be available here or not. And I said I own it. And you know I don't own movies I don't like. So we won't even try to pretend. Brad loves this film.
No, I knew. Well, you had told me before. I think actually, okay, here's the thing. Brad had suggested we do Mildred Pierce a while ago, and I was like, we're a little Joan Crawford heavy here, okay? We've done Grand Hotel, we did The Women, Baby Jane, and so we talked about possibly doing it, and then when we started talking about this Best Actress thing, I thought that might be a qualification, but what really did it for me and why I wanted to do this, and I suggested it to Brad, is because it is indeed a suggestion, a request from one of our most loyal, lovable listeners who has listened to us since episode 1 of this podcast. And that is my Italian mama, Mrs. Antoinette Spina in Palm Springs, California. I don't think she'll mind if I say where she is. And she said to me, when she was talking about when the new season was starting, and I told her, and she said, "Why don't you do Mildred Pierce? Are you going to do Mildred Pierce?" And I was like, all right. We'll do Mildred Pierce. So this is for you, Antoinette. I hope you enjoy this. I'm actually very excited to talk about this anyway. So thank you for the suggestion. I'm glad you gave it to us, and I'm excited to talk about this film with you.
Yes, Antoinette, I've brought it up several times, so thank you for kicking your nephew in the ass and making this happen.
Italian Mama, I'm her son. I'm her favorite son. Actually, no, she's the mother of my best friend, of Nick. So thank you, Antoinette, for suggesting this. I think that what I want to say is I'm sorry, Brad, because you always suggest these movies, and I'm like, no. And then somebody else says, why don't you do this? And I go, okay. And then I tell Brad, we're going to do this. He's like, I've been suggesting this for months. What's the problem?
And the thing is, I now have, the different emails from listeners that have sent us messages. And from this point on, I'm just going to send them a message and say, will you please suggest this? Because Tony doesn't listen to me.
Speaking of that, we are going to, I promise you, listeners, we're going to read some emails. We keep saying we're going to do it, and we haven't gotten to it. We haven't gotten to it yet, but we're only a few episodes into our season. So there's still time. We are going to, because we really, really appreciate when you reach out to us, when you give us suggestions, when you give your input and your thoughts. We really do. So we want you to know that, and we're going to read some shortly. We promise. Promise we are.
And normally I'd save this for the middle or towards the end, but because you brought it up, remember you can now leave us a voicemail, and we can now respond to your text messages. So all you have to do in the show notes, kind of near the top, is I think it's text us a message or something of that nature. I should know it off the top of my head. And just click on that, and it'll give you the option to text us or leave a voicemail, and then we can respond to you.
So, Brad, I'm curious. I know why I own a copy of Mildred Pierce, but I'm curious why, in your eclectic collection of films that you have, do you own Mildred Pierce?
Well, I love noir. The novel to this movie, and I don't like comparing novels to movies, as you know, but the novel sounds more interesting to me, except for the fact that they made the movie a mystery, and I love a noir mystery, and just the look and the feel, and I love trash. I mean, this is a trashy soap opera, but in the best of ways.
It's James M. Cain. And James M. Cain, who also wrote The Postman Always Rings Twice, who also wrote Double Indemnity, that is his speciality of the house, is pulp, trash. And yes, Mildred Pierce is glorious trash. I heard, especially this film version of it, I heard Molly Haskell, the film critic Molly Haskell, call this movie a mink coat with a gun. And that is the story of the film of Mildred Pierce. It is. It is a mink coat with a gun. And it is much different than the book, though. And we don't go deeply into differences between books and movies, but there are some important things I want to point out, differences. Because as Brad just said, the film from 1945, starring Miss Joan Crawford and Anne Blythe as, what did you call her before we logged on, Brad? Who is Vita in your opinion?
Yeah, Tony told me shut up because we don't talk about films beforehand, but I did let it out that she is the bad seed grown up.
She's Rhoda Penmark.
Thank you. I couldn't remember Rhoda's name.
Grown up with a fabulous updo. Yes, the wonderful, beautiful, incredibly talented Anne Blythe, who got an Oscar nomination as Best Supporting Actress for this. It's very different. It's the book, Mildred Pierce, is very different than the film, the 1945 film that we're talking about. But since we are talking about couching this in Best Actress terms, yes, that's indeed. Joan Crawford won her first and, unfortunately, only Oscar for Mildred Pierce. And there's a whole story behind that, and we'll talk about that. But I want to circle back to what you were talking about, noir, because we haven't really talked about a noir film before. We did actually, Chinatown is a modern noir film. But I think that since we haven't really talked about it, I think we should probably just put noir in a context of what noir is. So just really briefly, film noir literally translates as black film. It's French. It's à la française, which could refer to the cinematography because there's a lot of shadows. There's a lot of dark darkness in these films, literally, but it's more metaphorical. It's more in the mood. It began around 1944, in the mid-40s, during the war, no accident. And it was coined by a group of French critics who basically were distinguishing films that were particularly adept in their expressionistic lighting, the use of shadows, the odd camera angles, which this film all has. It has all these incredible elements, and it's the atmosphere. It's the pessimistic, fatalistic, and like nihilistic, like a menace. There's a menace in film noir, and then the menace in this film is Miss Vida Pierce, but you just have that atmosphere. So that's just kind of in a nutshell what film noir is.
Now, I got to pipe in and say that film noir may eventually develop on its own, but it started actually in the pulps about 20 years earlier.
In books. In books.
Yes.
Yes.
So I am glad you brought up the history of film noir, because it is allowing me this step back to go into the really noir to begin with in general. And as I said, it started in the pulps about 20 years earlier. And in the very earliest parts of the last century in the pulps, they made their appearances as stories in magazines such as one of them's The Black Cat. And although they were written by authors we've come to know and love and respect, those short stories were really bad. But then in 1930 came Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon, which you probably heard of. And I don't believe it was the first noir fiction novel. I can't say for sure. In fact, I know it wasn't. But it's the one that earned noir respect. And I credit it for also giving us other great novels that were adapted to films, such as a connection here, James M. Cain's The Postman Always Rings Twice in 1934. Horace McCoy's They Shoot Horses, Don't They in 1935.
Ooh.
Which many don't think of it as being noir.
No.
Because most during that era were mysteries, but not all. And then we also had Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep in 1939. So this is my salute to authors out there, because without these great novels, we wouldn't have these great movies.
Well, that's cool that you mentioned They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Because, we talked about that last year. And that is not a noir. That is shot just like a regular film. It doesn't have the film noir techniques that this film has. But that's cool that you mentioned it. That was interesting. But we should probably get back to Mildred Pierce.
Yes. Your polite way of saying, shut up, let's talk about movies, but I agree. Let's get back to Mildred.
What's really fascinating about Mildred Pierce is it's kind of a really fascinating hybrid of film noir of the 40s and the women's films of the 30s. Because in noir, it's usually pretty standard that you have a man, a hero, a protagonist being destroyed by a femme fatale. Well, in Mildred Pierce, you have a woman as the protagonist being almost destroyed by a femme fatale who just happens to be her daughter. So that's what's really interesting about Mildred Pierce. It's the blend of these two genres, women's pictures, which Joan Crawford did very, very much in her career in the 30s and 40s, and film noir. And so it kind of covers all bases, which is one of the reasons I love this film.
Yeah, I've already said what I love about this film. And of course, you know what? Joan is just fantastic.
She is. And there's a reason she won that Oscar. It wasn't just the fact that it was incredibly overdue. It was incredibly overdue. She had never even been nominated for an Oscar until she did Mildred Pierce, which is insane that she wasn't nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the Women. She probably wouldn't have accepted it because she's Joan Crawford. She doesn't support anybody. But still, it's amazing. It's amazing to me. But I do want to just give a couple little things about differences between the book and the film, and not giving away too much of the plot, because then we'll talk about the plot. But it's really important. Okay. My first question is to you, did you happen to catch the 2011 HBO miniseries starring Kate Winslet on Mildred Pierce?
No, but when I was researching I knew from watching the film, I'm like, there are differences from the book. I can just feel it. And in researching that, I learned about this miniseries, and I'm dying to see if it's still on HBO.
It is, because I rewatched it this week, because I watched it originally in 2011, and I just remembered being blown away by how different it is. So this is a spoiler alert or a warning to anyone who hasn't seen the Todd Haynes HBO series. It ain't like the 45 movie. I mean, it really...
I heard it's verbatim
from the book. It is the book. It's like 5 episodes, and it takes place. Just some of the crucial differences are, it takes place when the novel takes place in the 30s. Now, the film Mildred Pierce, starring Joan Crawford, is very much a child of the 40s. It's the shoulder pads, the ankle straps, the whole noir motif is a 40s thing. The book and the miniseries are not like that. They're in the 30s, and the Depression plays a big part of the book. There's a couple minor things, like Mildred's not quite the restaurant tycoon in the book as she is in the film. In the film, she's like Mrs. Denny's. I mean, she's got all these restaurants all over the place suddenly. Not that way in the book or the TV show. Monty, the character of Monty, comes in and out. He's not like in it and then continually in it. He comes in and out of the book. He dips in and out. But probably the biggest difference, and Brad kind of touched on it, is there is no murder in the book. Monty is not murdered by, oops, here's your spoiler alert, people. I don't think we do them anymore, but just in case, go watch Mildred Pierce, then come back. Monty is not murdered by Vida in the book. There is no murder. Why do you suppose, Brad, in 1945, there's a hint for you, they had to put Monty being murdered in the movie?
I already know, so I'm going to let you say, and I'm glad you brought it up because this has a lot to do with film. We don't talk a lot about the differences between the book and the movie, but this is very much a sign of what it is. And I'll just say it. It's the production code.
Exactly. Those 3 little words.
Monty had
to die, and Vida had to be punished. Because in the book and the TV series, Vida and Monty actually end up together. Vida becomes an opera star, which is probably the most ridiculous thing ever.
It's
bizarre. Out of the blue, she has this incredible coloratura voice. Suddenly she's a star. And she and Monty go off to New York in the end of the book. And that doesn't happen in the movie. In the movie, Vida gets punished because she kills Monty. And Brad's absolutely right. It's those 3 little words, the production code administration, which said, crime must be punished. Bad adultery must be punished. So that's why there's a murder in the movie. And in my opinion, I actually like it better. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I haven't seen the miniseries and I haven't read the book, and I want to do both. But as I said, there's a lot to it that attracts me more when I hear what's in the novel. But the mystery aspect and the murder aspect, that attracts me more. Without having read or seen the other, I feel my gut that's an improvement. So it doesn't surprise me to hear you say so.
Yeah, I think that for me personally, it's a neater, I don't know, I like my movies neat sometimes. It's a neater ending. It's a neater tie to have this murder. To see, first of all, it's a great catharsis to see this devil spawn, Vida Pierce, get some kind of punishment. And in the book, she doesn't. She's an opera star and she goes off and she's in New York with Monty. And Mildred's just left, basically almost destroyed. But here's something really interesting about the book. Is that obviously, hello again, 1945, the Production Code Administration, the lesbian and incest overtones are much stronger in the book than they are. You get little hints of it, also because it's Joan Crawford. You get little hints of maybe that Mildred's love for Vida is a little too intense. However, in the book, it's much more overt. And in the TV show, there's actually a scene where Vita's lying in bed and Kate Winslet comes and kisses her on the lips. And I think there's passages in the book where Mildred goes on about Vera's body and her legs. So you get a real feeling. There's definitely incestual lesbian overtones in the book, which obviously wasn't going to fly in 1945 in Hollywood.
See, when you mentioned lesbian, I thought maybe something went on between Joan and Eve Arden.
Well, they were good pals. They were pals-y wildly. How about another movie with Eve? I love that we're doing another movie with Eve.
My only complaint of this movie, which is my complaint in anything she is in, there's not enough Eve Arden.
There's not enough Eve Arden, but she did snab an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress, as did Anne Blythe. So we had 2 Best Supporting Actress nominations from this film, along with the Best Actress winner, Miss Joan Crawford. So now that I said the differences between the book and the film, Brad, do we want to tell them what the film Mildred Pierce is about?
Certainly. So Mildred Pierce. That's a whole different movie. That was the pickpocket. Actually, I can't talk at all today. I'll just skip over trying to explain it. Anyway, Mildred Pierce is a newly divorced, now single mother, and she's very domestic, and she was raising money by baking things and selling people in the neighborhood, which she now as a single woman turns into a restaurant business to support her daughters, especially her daughter Vida, who wants to always live well beyond her means, and just middle-class life is just not enough. And so as Mildred rises financially, Vida becomes more and more obsessive about wealth and continues to be cruel. I'm not going to say manipulative because I don't feel she was that manipulative.
But she tricked a boy into marrying her.
That is true. She did pull some of that. But overall, I just felt like it's because Joan had a sick, twisted devotion to her more than her being manipulative. That's what made me think the book is different, because she's not real skilled at it through most of the film. And I'm like, there had to be more to this than Mildred had some reason to just want to give her daughter everything and anything, other than they aren't going into some strange background that she had.
Vida's a sociopath in the book, and Mildred does have unnatural feelings for her, which in the movie, she's kind of like Rhoda Penmark, a little Rhoda Penmark light, although she does commit murder. She's not, you don't have time in a 2-hour movie to give every horrible thing that Vida does in the book, justice. So you could say,
and that's why I don't like to compare.
She's kind of glossed over a little bit in Anne Blythe's hands, but Anne Blythe is still brilliantly duplicitous and evil in this film, I think.
I agree. I think my gut feeling in this, and maybe it is the same as the book, I felt Mildred was just as sick of an individual, just in a different way.
True.
And that's where I kept saying, good God, listen to your husband. Get over this girl.
She's the great enabler, and she is what Joan Crawford did best. Nobody suffered and sweated like Joan Crawford. If Joan Crawford's in a movie, she's going to suffer and she's going to sweat at some point. Yeah. And that's why we said when Baby Jane was the story, Andrew Sarris said, the meeting of the great masochist, Joan Crawford, with the great sadist, Bette Davis. And Joan Crawford did play villains. Joan Crawford's true métier was playing women who suffered, because nobody could suffer like Joan in Mink with a gun at her side.
Yeah, and I should say at the beginning of the movie, because I kind of jumped into a question before I wrapped it up. If you don't know by now, and we kind of already said so, Monty is murdered at the beginning. So the rest of the movie is more about the life, but there is that undertone of who killed Monty.
Yes, the movie starts with a rosebud, with Monty being shot, and his last dying words are, "Mildred." So we want to know, who's Mildred? What did Mildred do? Why is this man being killed? And he's saying the name Mildred. So Monty is played by Zachary Scott, and I think we should say that Monty is Mildred's second husband. Monty is a ne'er-do-well. He's one of these rich Pasadena playboys who's lost his money, but not his lifestyle. And so Mildred basically supports him because Vida is obsessed with being in a certain social class, and Monty is of the manor born. So Monty becomes Mildred's second husband in both the book and the film, but in the end, he has an affair with Vida, both in the book and the film. But in the end of the film, Vida shoots him. And that's where the murder comes from that opens up the film. So I guess we should say we've got Joan Crawford playing Mildred Pierce. We've got Jack Carson. We haven't mentioned Jack yet. Jack plays Wally Fay, Mildred's co-business person. He helps her get the restaurant, and he's kind of like helping her manage her business. A co-worker of her husband. We've got the fabulous Eve Arden, as we said. She plays Ida. We have Anne Blythe as Vida. And then we have Bruce Bennett as Mildred's first husband, Bert Pierce. And we have as the enigmatic Maggie Biederhoff. We always hear about Mrs. Biederhoff. He's the woman that Bert is allegedly having an affair with, played by Lee Patrick. And I got to ask you, Brad, just quickly, did you recognize the actress who played Maggie Biederhoff, Lee Patrick, by any chance?
I didn't recognize her. When I learned what she is most known for, I slapped myself because I didn't catch it. She is most known for The Maltese Falcon.
Yes, she is, but that wasn't what I was thinking of.
Oh, what were you thinking of?
I was thinking of the Upson Down. She's Mrs. Upson.
Oh.
She's Gloria Upson's mother in Auntie Mame. But yes, she is in the Maltese Falcon as well, too. Yes. But I thought since we talked about Auntie Mame that that's what would pop
No,
in your
I
head.
didn't
Yes.
catch that.
Yes.
Okay.
Buddy.
No.
Yes.
See, I was still in the noir frame of mind. That's why.
Yes, you were. So Mildred Pierce was directed by Michael Curtiz, which is important to mention because Michael Curtiz was a journeyman at Warner Brothers who probably has more classic films under his belt than almost any other director we've ever talked about. Yet he's not one of these celebrated directors. He's not like a William Wyler. He's not like a John Huston. He's not like a John Ford. Curtiz just directed, right before this, he came down from a little film called Casablanca. He did mostly all the Errol Flynn movies. He did Robin Hood. He did Yankee Doodle Dandy, one of Brad's favorite movies. I mean, he was truly I want to call him a journeyman because he did these films, but he did amazing work. He did The Seahawk. He did Life with Father, Angels with Dirty Faces. I mean, this is a very, very fundamentally important director in Hollywood history, and yet not that many people know him and they know his work. They know Casablanca, but they don't know the director like they know your John Fords or your Bill Wellmans or people like that. So what's really interesting about Curtiz is that he was given this project called Mildred Pierce, which had just been published a few years before. And as I said, movies, Hollywood loved James M. Cain. They made Double Indemnity. They did Postman Always Rings Twice. This film was up. And Curtiz did not want Joan in this film. Now, I have to give a little background about how Joan got here, but did you know that? Did you know who Curtiz's first choice for Mildred Pierce was by any chance, Brad?
I believe I do know. It was either Stanwyck or Bette Davis.
You're right. It was both. It was both.
Oh, okay.
Because this is Warner Brothers in 1944, and, Betty was the fourth Warner brother. I mean, she was truly the queen of the lot in 1944. And Curtiz wanted Stanwyck. He wanted Barbara Stanwyck to play the part. But... and a few other actresses, but the usual reaction to this was, I'm not playing the mother of a teenager. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. Crawford had no such problems with this. Now, Crawford at this point, and this is real brief, I promise, had left MGM. She knew by the early 40s that she was no longer news at MGM after 18 plus years. And she, not as you see in some movies and TV series, she was not let go from MGM. She requested to be taken off contract. It was in her hands because, and such a brave thing, because, I mean, she'd been there, since she was like 19, 20 years old, depending on what age you believe her birth date was. And it was very brave of her, but she knew she had to do something because her career was just going nowhere. So she signed with Warner Brothers, Bette Davis's studio. All right, there's another thing, too. Another queen of the lot that's not her. Signed with Warner Brothers for less money and kept herself off the screen for 2 years. 2 years. This was when people were making movies, 2-3 movies a year. She kept herself off the screen for 2 years waiting for the right property. And she saw this script, and she knew it was hers. And I think it's pretty well known, at least for anybody who's watched Mommy Dearest, this is true. Curtiz didn't want her. Joan agreed to do a screen test. Now, that would kind of be akin to Meryl Streep doing a screen test for Mamma Mia. Okay, just to get that, for you to understand how big Joan Crawford had been, and the fact that she was submitting to a screen test was big. But again, Joan, so smart about her career, so canny. She knew this was her next phase. She knew this kind of larger-than-life noir heroine was where her career should go next. And she did such a great job on the screen test. She not only convinced Curtiz that she was the right person for this role, she actually made him cry during the screen test. And he said, "Baby, I love you. It's your part." So one thing he didn't like, though, and one thing he said was no goddamn shoulder pads, because Joan Crawford, very famous for the shoulder pads and very famous for the ankle strap shoes that Bette Davis kind of ungenerously referred to as Joan's fuck me shoes. And ironically, when you watch Baby Jane, the scene where Bette Davis is kicking Joan in the head, she's wearing ankle strap shoes. She's wearing Joan's fuck me shoes. Anyway, so it's so funny. He's like, you're not going to be that way. You're going to be an ordinary woman. Well, Joan Crawford could never be an ordinary woman. I mean, there's just no way. And I just think it's so funny because in the very first scene of Mildred Pierce, when we see Joan from the back walking along the pier, what is she wearing but a fur coat with linebacker shoulder pads and the fuck me shoes?
I was confused. I thought, is that Alexis Carrington?
It's crazy. He didn't want them, and yet they're in the first shot of her in those. But, It's Joan Crawford. What are you going to do?
Joan was great in this role, but I would love to see a Barbara Stanwyck rendition as well.
Oh, yeah.
She would be
amazing.
delicious.
She'd be great. She'd be great. Well, I don't know that you get quite the suffering with Barbara Stanwyck. I mean, have you ever seen Stella Dallas? Stella Dallas is...
Yeah.
She suffers as Stella Dallas, but not quite the same way.
Yeah, Stanwyck I can't see as much being a victim of her daughter. You're right.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, Stanwyck would kick her in the balls, I think.
Yeah. You're right.
Now Joan does get a few good slugs in, though, I'll tell you right now. And Anne Blythe gets one back. That scene where she slaps her, where Vita slaps Mildred, always astounds me because she whacks her. And Joan falls on the stairs. And that's when she says, "Get out of this house. Get out before I kill you." And it's
I couldn't believe she said that.
It's so, and that happens in the book too, but not quite as dramatically. "Get your things out of this house before I throw you out on the street. Get out before I kill you." And and the music is so dramatic and it's so intense. And yet she takes her back again. That's the thing that's so crazy about Mildred Pierce. What's the story about Mildred Pierce? She's nuts. She lets this little girl walk all over her and continually takes her back in the name of mother love, apparently. Yeah.
But she probably would have been fine had she never seen Vita again. But when she saw Vita up on that stage, degrading herself from Vita's standpoint, I'm sure.
So what happens is, I think we should go back a little bit in the plot. So Joan leaves her husband and is making pies and becomes a huge restaurateur, a huge, like I said, Mrs. Denny's, like Brad said too. And then she meets Monty, who Vita is immediately taken with because of his social status. But it doesn't work out because she realizes that Monty is also using her. She's footing the bill for everybody, basically. Mildred is. And so Vita is engaged to this boy from a wealthy family, but they do not approve of her because she's basically a restaurateur's daughter. And she tells them that she's pregnant. So he has to get married. But is she pregnant? Or isn't she pregnant? Do you remember what she said what she says in the movie about her pregnancy by any chance?
Something
Brad?
I think I might be, or she basically says if I say I am, I am.
Yeah, basically she says at this point it's a matter of opinion, which I think is a really great line. Yeah. She gets the boy's family to pay her off, so she'll disappear, go have the baby, and
it's pretty evil.
So Vita has a big check. And that's what she says to Mildred. "With this check, I'll be able to get away from you and everything in this rotten life." And that's when Mildred grabs the check from Vita and rips it up. And that's when Anne Blythe hauls back and smacks Joan Crawford across the face so hard that it knocks Joan back. And that's when Mildred says, "Get out of this house before I kill you." So they separate again. And Vita is on her own, and Mildred goes to see her with Bert at this honky-tonk where she's just doing this sleazy kind of song and dance. And that's when she comes back into Mildred's life again and creates even more havoc by sleeping with Monty and then eventually killing him. And then that's Mildred Pierce, basically.
One of the things that I found interesting in this film, and I'm sure it was by accident, is whenever Zachary Scott was on the screen, the light would go across his face, and it almost was as if they were highlighting his long eyelashes.
Probably were.
I'm sure that was accidental.
He's the beauty. He's the beauty in this story. If you notice, I mean, as we said, it's a female film noir. Mildred is the protagonist. Joan Crawford is the protagonist. But Monty is the object of affection. You know, it's not a woman. It's not Veronica Lake who they're fighting over. No. It's Monty. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true. The noir aspects of this film are really fascinating. Not just the shadows, but the camera angles. The film opens at the beach house, at Monty's beach house. And there's a wonderful circular stairway. And very early in the film, we get Jack Carson running. He's either running up the stairs or down the stairs. I don't remember right now. And you get that shot up of the spiral staircase, which is really cool and very indicative of film noir, those kind of wonderful angles that you get. This film is full of them, and it gives the film such a foreboding mood. I mean, you know what I mean? A heaviness that you wouldn't have gotten had it been lit and shot like a standard film. Don't you think?
Every set, the lighting, everything was stunning. It was just beautiful to watch. Especially if you like noir. As far as Zachary Scott goes, I know this film, at least my understanding is this is what put him on the map, and he made a career out of playing cads.
Yes.
I gotta say, he was so charming and so likable in the beginning. And then when you found out that he was just kind of this broke, manipulative playboy, that was equally believable. He did a really good job of, you loved him and then you disliked him, and it was all very natural.
No, absolutely. He's a wonderful cad. I mean, he's perfect casting as a cad. Another cad is Jack Carson.
He is. He was kind of this lovable, playful, evil individual.
He is.
Much different type of cad, and I think both of them would be successful in what they do in real life. Just they take it from a different angle.
He's the lovable cad. You like Jack Carson. We talked about Jack Carson too. He was also in Stage Door with Eve Arden, by the way. He had a very small part in Stage Door. But you like Jack, in this film at least, you like Wally. Wally's not quite as reprehensible as he is in the book. But it's funny because this film is full of weak men and strong women, and nobody is stronger than Miss Crawford and Mildred Pierce. And in talking about the lighting and what Ernest Haller did with her, with that noir lighting, he knew noir. Haller did, and he was her favorite cameraman after this. He was Betty Davis's favorite cameraman after this. He shot them in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. They were very happy about that, but he shot them much differently in Baby Jane. Then he shoots Crawford in this. I mean, here he used the shadows to bring out the features of Crawford's face and, the highlights in black and white. And what's so wonderful about Joan Crawford, and has always been wonderful about Joan Crawford, and we said this in our Baby Jane episode, the woman was trained in silent film. Everything registers on Joan Crawford's face. Every emotion, every single idea that she has registers in her face. She doesn't need words. She has a face. They don't need a voice. They had faces then. And it's exactly what you get from Crawford in this film. And it's one of the reasons I think she won the Oscar, is because her face tells you so much about Mildred's inner life and what's going on in Mildred. How about the scene where, we should probably say that Mildred started with 2 kids, Kay and Vida. Kay's younger than Vida. Kay dies tragically about an hour into the film because Mildred is off screwing Monty. This is the lesson she learned. She finally opens herself up. She's been in this kind of loveless marriage with Bert. She leaves him. She wants to establish this business and get her life together and give her children a better life. And she's ignored all of her own personal desires. The first time she gives in to her desires and goes with Monty to his beach house, and it's obviously intimated, they've been intimate, she comes home to find out Kay's dying.
Well, the water in Lake Arrowhead is cold.
Out of the blue, she dies. Out of the blue, she's in that iron lung. Suddenly, oh.
Well, no. Now the blue, you did hear her cough twice.
She did cough. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I went, oh, here we go.
It's very subtle.
She's coughing. You know what's going to happen next. Yeah, so I love that that's what the film... And this happens in the book, too. Mildred goes away and enjoys sex for the first time in a very long time, and then her daughter dies. But what the hell is James M. Cain saying here about a woman expressing her sexuality? Be careful. Know where your kids are if you're going to go out and get laid, basically. So I want to talk a bit about the reception of the film, of course, and on the stats and everything, and the Oscars. We got to talk about the Oscars. But did you have something you wanted to say to the people about the podcast and about certain, you want to do that housekeeping stuff you do?
Sure. Well, I already did the thing about texting us or leaving a voicemail, which is great. But what really, and we want to hear from you, and please give us ideas. As you heard, this episode is only being recorded because of a request.
Yeah.
So do that, but also so other people know that you love this show, or at least like it very much. Please rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, or as I love what they say, wherever you get your podcast.
It's so true. Wherever you do. We appreciate it. We are going to we listen to you, and we're going to read some reviews and thank you not in person, but we'll thank you through the podcast. So this film, it's kind of interesting. They held off this film when it was completed. They held off releasing it until after World War II ended. They knew it was coming to an end, and they're like, we're going to wait. It's very interesting because VJ Day was August 14th, 1945. And this film was released on September 28th, 1945. And part of the ad campaign was, this is very interesting, was aimed towards returning servicemen. It's very interesting how they did that. The men want to come home to find out what's going on with Mildred Pierce. It's a very interesting the way they promoted this film, and it clearly worked. Because do you have the stats on this film, Brad?
I do. As I pull those up, I want to say I was quite amazed that nothing was mentioned of the war at all. Other than you saw the sailors whistling at Vita, that could really been most any time. Mm-hmm. The war was never mentioned as far as I recall. Oh, and the husband, I can't remember his name, Bert. He got a job in some kind of defense industry, airlines or whatever. But anyway,
yeah,
I found that really interesting. So yeah, now getting to this film and how it did, the budget was $1.4 million, and it earned $5.6 million.
Huge.
Which put it in the top 10 for the year. Yeah, that was
huge amount.
About a big deal.
$100 million in today's money. This is for a air quotes women's film noir.
Yeah, huge.
Joan had just been named, along with Hepburn, we got a lot of box office poisons this season. Joan had just been named box office poison. For her to leave MGM after 18 years, wait, and then come back with a film that made, in today's money, $100 million was huge, huge news.
It really was. And it's still, as you alluded to, it was praised at the time. It had mixed, but overall it was praised. At release, Joan was certainly obviously praised. It was a box office hit. And today it's considered a classic noir film. My understanding is that they study it for gender and its class and its style. And on Rotten Tomatoes, I always have to go there because I like that they aggregate the scores. And the critic score was higher than I expected on this film. I thought a lot of them would have thought it was too trashy, but I think they appreciate what it is. And critic score is 96%.
Mm-hmm.
Audience score is 88%.
Interestingly, Mildred Pierce is one of those rare films which has actually gained in stature over the years.
Yeah.
Joan's performance was always praised. The film, I like the screenplay. Some of these lines that Eve Arden has, the line about the alligators having the right idea, they eat their young, when she's talking about Vita. And, it's a wonderful screenplay, but there were some holes in it, and it got mixed reviews, and Brad's absolutely right. But over the years, as it's been analyzed and rediscovered as this kind of interesting hybrid of women's film with noir, it's truly gained in stature with the critics. Now it's looked at as one of the greatest noir films of Hollywood. And we're talking about some major films here. Double Indemnity. I mentioned it before. These are some big films, and Mildred Pierce is right up there with them.
Yeah, there are definitely aspects of this film that I kept catching. I'm like, oh, that's kind of bad. And I stopped. I'm like, you know what? This is a fun film. Get over it. And if you wanted to pick it apart, I'm sure it's very easy to do. In fact, there's stuff I can do it right now. But just go for the ride. It's a great film in so many ways, as you just said. There's so much greatness to it. You kind of ignore some of its flaws.
It's just a great first-rate melodrama. And that's what I love about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, It's just a great, wonderful melodrama that's going to take you where it's going to take you, and you're going to feel satisfied at the end, as the audiences did in 45. And it did get 5 Oscar nominations. It was nominated for Best Picture, Actress, 2 Best Supporting Actresses. As I said, Anne Blythe and Eve Arden both got Best Supporting Actress nominations. Best Screenplay and Cinematography. But this is our Best Actress month, our Best Actress series. So we're going to talk about the woman who didn't walk away with the Oscar, who had the Oscar brought to her. Because Joan was indeed nominated for Best Actress. As I said, her very first Oscar nomination after being in films for exactly 20 years. Because she started in 25. So anybody who's watched Mommy Dearest knows the story. And Mommy Dearest gets a lot of stuff wrong. But the story of Joan's Oscar win is true. Now, it's debatable whether or not she was really sick. Joan claims she was sick. Other people claim she was just too nervous to go because everything was riding on this for her. She came back from basically oblivion, from box office poison, to be nominated with these people. And Joan Crawford always felt she didn't get the respect she deserved as an actress, and she was right. So alongside Joan, the other nominees were Ingrid Bergman for The Bells of St. Mary's, Greer Garson in The Valley of Decision, Jennifer Jones in Love Letters, and Gene Tierney in Leave Her to Heaven. So Joan's name was indeed announced as the winner. And Joan, who was apparently in her bed, called her makeup person, called her hairdresser, called her costumer. They came to her house. They did her hair. They did her makeup. They put a nice frilly little negligee on her. And in came Mike Curtiz with her Oscar. Now, don't tell me this woman did not know Hollywood and how to play the game, because, of course, in the paper the next day, the front of the paper, the first page, of course, you're going to see a photo of Joan Crawford in bed holding her Oscar. I guarantee you, if she had shown up for the ceremony, she wouldn't have been on the front page. But the fact that she's in her sick bed with an Oscar made all the papers. This is what I always say about Joan Crawford. Say what you want to about her as a mother. The woman was so canny about her career and what she needed to do to stay on top. I love that story.
It's a great story. It's a very Joan Crawford story.
It is. I don't know personally that she necessarily deserved that Oscar. I love her performance in this movie. Don't get me wrong. I love her performance. Gene Tierney in Leave Her to Heaven, though, is another astounding performance. So Joan's performance certainly warranted an award. Against Gene Tierney, I'm not so sure. I feel like Joan deserved to win a couple years later for Sudden Fear, but we're not talking about Sudden Fear. The point is that the sentiment, the swell of emotion was behind Joan, and there was no way she was going to lose, really, because she just pulled off the biggest comeback Hollywood had seen almost ever, I think. She really did. And she set herself out for an incredible second act of her career, doing these great first-rate melodramas at Warner Brothers, and P.S., kind of displacing the queen of the lot, because as Joan went up at Warner Brothers, guess who started to go down until she had to leave the studio. So there's another reason why Betty had a little animosity towards Joan, because Joan was doing all these great roles suddenly at Warner Brothers, like Possessed, which Betty couldn't do because she was pregnant, and humoresque, and another great noir, The Damned Don't Cry, getting Oscar nominations for Possessed, and Betty was like kind of sliding downhill. So it's really interesting how that happened.
I'm going to touch on Eve Arden for just a second.
Oh, please do.
And this doesn't have to do with her career. I've decided I'm going to have to do an Eve Arden weekend.
Yeah.
As I'm watching, I'm like, if she was young enough, she would have been great on the Golden Girls.
Oh, she would. Well, she kind of is B. Arthur, isn't she?
Exactly. I'm like, I was sitting there watching her. I'm like, oh my God, why wasn't she on the Golden Girls?
I love it. I love it when Jack Carson is walking out of the restaurant and she's standing up on the stool adjusting her stockings or something, God. And she says to him, "Leave something on me. I might catch cold." And he says, "Just thinking, not about you." And then she says, then Wally says, "I hate all women." And she says, my. And he says, "Thank goodness you're not one." I mean, yeah, there's the relationship between Wally and Ida, between Jack Carson and Eve Arden is fabulous. It's beautiful. So I guess that was Mildred Pierce. We talked about this wonderful film from 1945. Do you have anything else you want to say about the film, Brad, that we didn't cover, or the podcast or anything?
No, I'm just going to say, if you haven't watched it in a while, go back and watch it. It's just fun, and not just fun. It's very thought-provoking. It
is thought-provoking. It's a very, very interesting film. Yeah, and it has one of the best performances. As I said, I didn't mean to downplay her winning the Oscar for that. I think she absolutely deserved all the awards she got. I was just saying that Gene Tierney gave a kick-ass performance that year too. But Joan, I would never begrudge it to her. This Oscar changed Joan Crawford's life. She was forever grateful about this Oscar for the rest of her life. And she proudly identified as Mildred Pierce for the rest of her life.
That's awesome.
Well then, Brad, I guess there's only one thing left to say, because I think I'm seeing you for the first time and you're cheap and horrible. But let's not say goodbye. Let's say au revoir.
No, let's say goodbye.
Get out before I kill you. Goodbye, everybody.
Get out. Get your things out of here before I throw them into the street and you with them. Get out before I kill you.
What's that for?
I do that in all my pictures.